What's up, guys? Welcome back to the HCP podcast. Before we get started on everything, make sure you are subscribed. Hit that notification bell. Let's jump into really a slam-packed week of a bunch of upsets, really, but still really good matchups. Starting off with Cleveland versus Tennessee, probably the most impressive team coming out of this week, besides from the New England Patriots, which we'll get into them. But Cleveland having an absolutely offensive powerhouse of a game here against Tennessee, really just shutting down Derrick Henry, too. I think that's what really gave them the win here. But, yeah, Cleveland really showed a lot of promise here. Do you think, with how good this Cleveland team looks, and of course, Steelers, they have 11 wins. They're pretty much already punched their ticket in for the playoffs. Do you think any other team in the whole conference, more or less, just with Cleveland, how good they are, could they knock Baltimore out of playoff contention, or at least put them into a place where they won't be able to get past the first round?
Absolutely. The Browns have been very impressive this year. Talking about that game, I told you that it would be a must win, or it wasn't a must win, but the Tennessee needed to win that game, and now the Colts slipped back and tied the division back up. So the Tennessee is going to have to finish out the game strong, and the Browns look really good.
Yeah, and then the thing is, it really is kind of shocking. It kind of does give you the whole feeling over there with Cleveland that it took them this many wins for people to be like, wow, they might actually be a good team. They've been a good team for a little bit. They've been a good team since the beginning of the season, but they do still have some tough matchups to get out of their hand. But let's move into the next game. New England just absolutely demolished the Chargers. No rookie quarterback is ever going to be able to do anything good against New England, but 45-0, that is just crazy. Honestly, just a great overall performance by the New England defense. Their offense wasn't even that high powered. I mean, y'all's top receiver was Gunner. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah, he had a
But
touchdown, and N'Keal Harry had a touchdown.
Yeah, he had 38 yards, which led all receivers individually, which is just crazy, the fact that they won by that margin. But that tells you how powerful their defense was. Shut down Hunter Henry, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, anybody. Hell, even Austin Eckler kind of had a dud this week. But yeah, just overall very impressive. Even though Miami does take another win and they do start to kind of reach out there, do you think your team can come back, especially with how good they are looking now? They do still, of course, have some tough matchups to get into. They play the Rams next week. So do you think they could end up giving Miami some trouble?
I said last week I thought we were out of it, but I mean, that was a pretty convincing win. I still don't know, man. Miami's a really good team this year. It's going to be tough to overtake them. I don't see them going and losing like two in a row or something to where we could go and take the wild card spot. It's a lot of good competitive teams that we're competing with right now, including the Raiders, who are going to be tough to get past with considering our schedule.
Yeah, and then moving on to the next game, Rams, Arizona. Once again, another very convincing win for the Rams here. They are continuing to prove that they are the best team in this division. Seahawks, they fell behind with their loss to the Giants. Biggest upset of the year until the football team decided to say something about that. But more or less, let's focus on Arizona. Arizona, they're starting to drop out of playoff contention. They're starting to go from wild card to in the hunt because you got a team that quietly is starting to get into wild card talks, and that's the Vikings. I believe the Vikings are up 500 now. I believe they're 6-6, and Arizona's starting to fall down a little bit. I mean, just a few weeks ago we were talking about how good this Arizona team could be, but they've gone through a really rough patch. So, what do you think is going to be the key for Arizona to? I never thought I'd be saying this, but do better than the Vikings and make sure they don't take their playoff spot.
The defense definitely has to step up. They've been getting into a lot of shootouts where they need their offense to basically carry them. The defense got to get some stops and win some games for that team because Kyler Murray even has been shaky, even though he started off the season very well. He's been throwing interceptions. I don't know if he had any in that last game, but he didn't
I
play
believe
his
he did.
best.
He had that pick six at the very end that pretty much sealed it all.
Okay, well then yeah, but the Rams are a very good team, and I've been saying that they'll be contenders for a few weeks.
Yeah, it just really, really sucks to see a team like this because I liked Arizona coming into, but you can't help but think what would a guy like Chandler Jones, who they lost, how much that would affect. But really, you need to see guys like Buda Baker really step up for the secondary because, damn, it's really hurting them now. And then, like I already said, New York. one of the biggest upsets of the year, really just proving to everyone how underrated their defense is. But we've been saying this forever. Whenever we've talked about New York on the podcast, we've said that New York has a very underrated defense. And they managed to get it done against one of the best teams in the league. Well, I don't know how much you can say that now because Russell Wilson, I mean, where has he gone? I mean, I, I want to hear your take. What in the world is going on with the Seattle Seahawks? More specifically, Russell Wilson.
Well, the Seahawks, they've been crumbling the past few weeks. Russell Wilson, I don't know. I guess playing mind games with himself, something like that. He's definitely hitting a rough patch, but no one will really know why that's happening. He surprised everyone.
It's rough right now because they got so much talent over there, but then again, their secondary is going to keep on giving them up. But this wasn't even a high scoring game for either team. It's just New York managed to outplay Seattle. And then Kansas City, Denver. I didn't expect Denver to put up this much of a fight, but they did. Melvin Gordon had a big game here. I believe he had like 130 rushing yards here. And then coming out of this game, it's no surprise that Kansas City won this game. But coming out of this game, I got my defensive player of the week, Tyrann Mathieu. 2 interceptions, really just sealed the game off right there. I believe he had the interception on the first drive for the Broncos, and then at the very end, sealed it off, kind of shut down any sort of chance that the Broncos had of trying to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. But Tyrann led the team in tackles, definitely made some big noise tonight for the Chiefs. And then, pretty much there's nothing really much to say about this game. This just further proves that Kansas City is the best team in the league. And if you could debate that, well, that debate's over now because the biggest pretenders that this league has ever seen, the undefeated Steelers, are undefeated no more. The Washington football team beat the Steelers last night for the first time first time in my entire life I've rooted for Washington just because I'm so sick of seeing those little TikTok boys dance on their logos. Shut up. You lost a game to a team without a name, all right? Thank God they can shut up now because it just further proves to what everyone's been saying. This Pittsburgh team is a pretender. What about you? What do you think of this Pittsburgh team?
We've been saying it for the longest on this podcast. Their schedule was easy, and they finally get exposed by a team that's not even that good. Uh, you could say Washington is probably one of the most competitive teams that they've played in a few weeks, and it shows right there. Washington made big plays in the end to seal the game. Big interception, big defensive play right there at the end. Hopkins made the clutch field goals, and they sealed the game. What else is there to say? But it's a Steelers loss. I'm happy.
Not only that, but yes, gotta help them mention Pittsburgh. They took a lot. They took a hit last night. Joe Hayden, I believe, got injured. I don't know if he returned in the game, but that's going to be something they're going to have to monitor. Bud Dupree, they lost for the season with an ACL injury last week, and then Devin Bush earlier on. So they've taken some hits. But y'all managed to win games without those guys, and that's no longer existent. And especially Washington, they managed to win this game without Gibson for most of the time. That's what really impressed me about their Gibson. A little bit rocky. I believe what I've been hearing is it's a knee injury. It could be turf toe. Definitely going to keep an eye on that, and we'll talk about more of that tomorrow when we talk about fantasy. But yeah, very, very impressive win here from Washington, and then Buffalo, Seattle. Buffalo continues to stretch this lead, continue to prove they're one of the best teams in the AFC. Not Seattle. I meant San Francisco.
49ers, yeah.
Yeah, Niners. Man, San Francisco's really missing Garoppolo. You got to think right now, San Francisco's 5-7. Do you think they should just call it quits? They're not going to make the playoffs at this point. The wild card, even though it's 6-6 right now, the lowest wild card seed, they're not going to be able to make the playoffs. Not in my mind. What do you think San Francisco goals here, especially for this end of the season?
Yeah, there really is no goals. Their division's just too competitive right now. There's 3 better teams than them, above them by too much right now, and it's weird to see a Super Bowl team last year just plummet this much. They're not even a bad team either. They just have a tough schedule. They've been losing some close games. Again, Garoppolo out. That's a key player for them. I saw something where they were like 13-2 or something with Garoppolo in the past 2 years, but without him, they're like 5-10 or something like that. It just shows how important a good, strong quarterback is to your team.
Yeah, it's really rough to see a team, especially of this caliber, to take the injuries like they have taken this year. But there really is nothing that you can do but just look forward. But yeah, let's get into our rewards before we get into some of the bigger topics. I want to jump in right here and say this is the first time, probably the only time this year, that I will give my Offensive Player of the Year award to a tight end. But Darren Waller, he didn't play like a tight end. This man played like a man on a mission, and that was to beat the New York Jets. And that's a pretty easy mission. But 13 receptions, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That is crazy for a tight end. Easily the best performance of this. Of probably one of the best performances of this year. Tyreek Hill, yeah, probably the best, but that's just impressive, especially for a tight end. I just can't get over that stat line. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, you got to talk about Darren Waller. That's a insane performance by a tight end. That just doesn't happen. I mean, it rarely happens nowadays. Tight ends are so overlooked. But Waller had an incredible game. Also, Corey Davis had a really good game receiving, as well as Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I mean, it was a slam packed week for receivers, running backs. I wouldn't say not so much. There wasn't a lot of big games for running backs, but we've been seeing a lot of teams start to finally make adjustments. Jets fired their defensive coordinator last week. Detroit fired their head coach. You're seeing a lot of teams start to go into it, and of course, Jets are probably going to end up getting rid of Adam Gase, and if they don't, Jesus, I feel for Trevor Lawrence once he goes there. If he even commits, I don't even know how all that's going to go down. But you're seeing a lot of teams get exposed. You got the Chargers with Anthony Lynn, Dallas with Mike McCarthy. I mean, who do you think should be fired? I mean, not really just who needs to be fired, but who do you think is the next head coach to get fired out of all of those bunches? Because it's a bad bunch of them too.
I definitely wanted to speak on Anthony Lynn. That guy's got to go. I'm sorry to say it. He's a really nice guy. I'm sure the Chargers really love him, but he's just not getting it done. With a really good offense, he has the weapons to do it. His defense hasn't been optimal either this year, but that guy's got to go along with Gase.
Yeah, I mean, Gase, and also another guy no one's been. I mean, people have been talking about, but not as much. Of Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy, what in the hell are
Oh,
you doing? What in the
oh
hell are you
man.
doing, dude? 5-1, and now you lost to Detroit. You let Detroit come back on you. Detroit's supposed to be the one blowing leads, not you. I mean, David Montgomery, hats off to you. You've been the only bright spot of this team for the past 2 weeks. But this team is atrocious. This team is ass. I don't care if it's Mitch Trubisky. Overall, Matt Nagy is not a good head coach anymore. He has been figured out. He won Coach of the Year a couple of years ago, and he cannot do anything besides that. Matt Nagy does not deserve to have a job. Maybe as some sort of defensive coordinator. I don't know what his strengths are because there is no strengths to this defense, this defense or offense over there in Chicago. So Matt Nagy is probably on the top of my list just because I don't know if they specifically have the talent on offense, but defense, you're wasting Robinson and Montgomery on offense, but defense, so many guys that are coming up, and you're just wasting their talents, especially some of the older guys too. It is a disgrace that you've managed to take this team into a nosedive like you have. So I don't think Matt Nagy deserves to be a coach anymore. But Lions are starting to target defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, I believe that's his name, from the San Francisco. I don't know. Lions, last time you hired a defensive coordinator, didn't really work out all that well, but Saleh has been a very good defensive coordinator for San Francisco. So we'll see how that plays out. And then Sherman, he announced last week before the game started that he was no longer going to be playing with San Fran after the season ends, which is pretty big news because he's probably one of their bigger names on that defense. So where could you see, or what teams do you think need to take advantage of this moment and sign Sherman?
I'm not really sure of any team that you could say the Jets. I mean, they could grab him. I mean, who really needs help in the secondary like badly?
Yeah,
Uh,
because I mean, Seattle's not going to re-sign him. The only team that comes to mind, really for me, is I would say Atlanta. Atlanta would probably be because
yeah,
a lot of people are
yeah.
very attracted to Florida. Or Sherman could just say screw it and go down to Tampa. You never really know. And that's the
Why
unfortunate thing
not? Everyone else is doing it.
pretty much. But yeah, it's going to be that's probably going to be one of the bigger names to watch during this offseason alongside. And also Tampa's got Chris Godwin expiring. So you don't know how that's going to end up playing out. And then the last thing we wanted to talk about, finally, it seems like Peterson finally listened to everyone. You played Hurts and you almost won. I mean, yeah, Hurts threw that interception at the very end, but what else? What the hell else is he supposed to do? Your defense dug you in such a hole. More specifically, Carson Wentz dug yourself in such a hole. I mean, I still think I still think we're the worst team in the division. People are saying it's the Eagles, but I still think we're the worst team in the division. And as we're recording this, we haven't lost to the Ravens yet, but that is just gonna be a horrible game to watch. But hey, screw it. What else am I gonna see from this team that I haven't seen already? But do you think the Eagles could have any sort of chance of getting to the top of this division, even though they're starting to get a little bit of a substantial lead, especially with how bad their defense is playing as well. Do you think Eagles have a better chance of doing anything with Hurts rather than Wentz?
Uh, Absolutely, man. I don't see how it's even a question anymore for Peterson. He was talking about how he's going to evaluate it this week and make a decision based on his own thoughts. I mean, Hertz came in. Everyone's complaining, saying that Wentz doesn't have the weapons to get it done. Hertz comes in and leads a drive and scores a touchdown with Greg Ward, I believe, caught the touchdown. I mean, I think you got to give the rookie a chance. It's been long overdue for a few weeks.
Exactly.
I know Wentz has that big contract, but I don't know. It's about winning games. There's no pity in the NFL, really. You got to play your guys.
Yeah, and the thing is like when you take a look at some of the big guys that they had last year on their receiving core, I believe it was like John Hightower, if that's his name, and then JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Now you got Jalen Rager, who I mean he had that big punt return. He's a speedy receiver. He's serviceable. Fulgham, he hasn't been playing great recently, but he's serviceable. Alshon Jeffrey, same thing. There's a lot of serviceable guys that you have, especially compared to last year, and you're playing worse with those guys. So it's not the receivers. It's not the O-line. I mean, yeah, that might have something to do with him getting sacked, but he doesn't know where he's throwing the ball. His confidence is shaken right now, and that's because Hurts probably going to take his job. And we've
Yeah.
seen this. We've seen this happen with Foles. And I mean, of course, hindsight 2020 here. Wentz was obviously the better choice there, but at the time I was thinking, Foles did more for Wentz than he ever did for this franchise. So, yeah, it's not looking good for Wentz, and especially if the Eagles get rid of Wentz too, or if they cut him, that's a lot of salary coming off their cap space. So, Eagles really dug themselves a hole. But that's all for this past week. Let's get into Week 14, starting off with Thursday Night Football. We mentioned earlier the absolute domination from the Pats, but they faced a very good team, both offensively and defensively, in the Rams this week. Pats coming off of a hot performance. I think this is going to be a very good game. I think it's going to be a close game because it's going to be, once again, a battle of the coaches. McVay, this is the first time they've matched up since Super Bowl. So McVay versus, I mean, I don't see McVay losing this fight though. Yeah, Belichick's a great coach. It's going to be really just a battle of the minds. But McVay, I don't see him losing this battle here.
Yeah, you're right. It's gonna be a battle of those coaches, but McVay just has the better team. Belichick, he needs to win this game. If he can somehow do it, that'd be great for the Patriots. Put him over 500 and definitely close that gap with Miami. This is a must win for the Patriots. They got to win it, but I don't see him winning it. I got to pick the Rams.
Yeah, and then the next game up, Minnesota versus Tampa Bay. There wasn't a lot of good 1 o'clock games. Hell, probably besides from this, the only good one was Dallas versus Cincinnati, which that's probably just going to be Tank Bowl. But Minnesota, Tampa Bay 7-5 right now. Minnesota 6-6. So these teams are not that far apart. I mean, yeah, Tampa's been going through. How much more time do you need to get used to this team, Tom? I mean, you've used up 13 weeks now. You're coming off of a bye. I think they're going to win this game against Minnesota. But you can't help but think. People were saying for the first 4 weeks it's probably going to be a little bit rocky, but after then they're going to start rolling. Where's the roll? It just seems like more rocky road. And now you've thrown Antonio Brown into the mix. Tampa Bay, this is going to be a must win because they're going to have to set this mentality. They got a really easy schedule, especially for the passing game. They got a really easy schedule coming up these last 4 games. So they're probably going to project themselves up into even farther up into that wild card spot. But Tampa Bay, they really just got to get on the same page because they haven't been able to do that for the whole season. What about you?
Yeah, coming up this bye week, I think that they're going to get their problems straight and pull the win out. I don't think there's a sure winner here. Minnesota's look very good. It could go either way right here, but I think the Bucks are a little bit more of a favorite because they're coming off that bye week. I think they'll get some of the issues they have turned around and pick up this win that they need to get.
And then Colts Las Vegas, the best 4 o'clock game in my opinion. I think this is going to be another great game. Las Vegas, I feel like, has a good enough defense to stand with that Colts offense. Jonathan Taylor finally looked good. He probably had his one good
Yes,
game, and then
great.
he's going to put up 6 next week. Who knows? But yeah, he has a good matchup this week again too. So Taylor, maybe even Hines could start getting used a little bit more. But that Colts offense has looked a lot better. T.Y. Hilton, I don't know where in the world he's been, but he finally decided to show up for Phillip Rivers. But Las Vegas almost losing to the Jets. This could be a little bit of a toss up. I wouldn't be surprised to see Las Vegas pull away with the win here, but I love the Colts. I've been loving the Colts all year. I love them for the beginning of the year. So give me the Colts here against Las Vegas. What about you? You gonna go with a little bit of a hot hand and take Las Vegas?
Absolutely not. After that close game with the Jets that they almost lost, they were basically handed that game at the end. I gotta pick the Colts. The Colts are just a better team. They're playing better. Uh, no shade on the Raiders. I mean, we've liked them all year. We think that they can maybe create a playoff run, but that just wasn't the best defensive performance, especially against the Jets. And you're going against a way better team right now. I think they're gonna get exposed. I'm going Colts.
You really needed a guy like Devontae Booker to step up last weekend for Las Vegas, and it seems like Booker only wants to play when there's somebody in front of him. So this
Yeah.
team's really going to need Josh Jacobs back, especially come playoff time. But I mean, do you have anything else new on that whole Jacobs situation? Is he out? Is he in?
I just heard something last night. Per John Gruden, it wasn't really a confirmed. I don't know what to call it. I can't figure out the word I'm looking for.
Pretty
But
much a
Gruden
rumor
said,
or a source, yeah.
yeah, Gruden said it was unlikely that Jacobs would see the field this week. I wouldn't take that too seriously. I mean, they're gonna try to get him in there. This is a big game. You got to have your star offensive player on the field. They're definitely not gonna rush it because they can't. If you get Jacobs hurt, everyone's gonna hate you. But they need him. I don't know. I think you got to rest him for one more week though. If this is a legitimate ankle sprain, because you can't just rush players like that you can get hurt for more.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of ankle sprains this year, especially high ankle sprains have been plagued throughout this league this year. And then let's get into Pittsburgh, Buffalo. Finally, Pittsburgh, you get to face up against a good opponent, and you're not undefeated anymore, so go fuck yourselves. I'm picking Buffalo. I think Buffalo is going to destroy this Pittsburgh team. They could look a lot better, but especially if Pittsburgh is if Pittsburgh is without Joe Hayden, this Pittsburgh team doesn't have a chance against Buffalo. Yeah, I mean, there's just no question in my mind. Buffalo's going to take a big win this week.
Oh yeah, if you watched that game last night, Josh Allen looked phenomenal. The offense absolutely went crazy on the 49ers defense, which isn't bad at all. I got to take the Buffalo Bills right here. The Steelers suck. I mean, I get their record is good, but I don't think they're that good of a team. It's hard to say that, but I've dealt with it a lot as a Patriots fan. We've had some easy schedules in the past, and people have doubted us. But I think this is legitimate. This isn't that great of a team, and they're getting to the meat and potatoes of their schedule right here, where they're gonna have to prove themselves going into the playoffs. But Bills got this one in my books.
I mean, we saw a lot of people have high projections for the Patriots last season, and then we saw what Derrick Henry did to them. So that's the whole reason. I just see that it's just Pat's last season 2.0, like right here. That's all I see
Yep,
with the Steelers here. I
absolutely.
mean, they didn't really get exposed in the running game, but just overall, their offense is not that great. Their wide receivers are not that good. Deontay Johnson got peppered with targets and he dropped about half of them. Same thing with Juju. Claypool just didn't get used a lot. He was getting locked down. Ebron is about the only guy you would think would be good enough to catch a ball, but no, even he was dropping passes left and right. I feel like this Pittsburgh team really needs Joe Hayden back more or less. They need James Conner back because and none of their running backs are good enough. But a guy that I really like for Pittsburgh, actually, James Washington has probably been about the only guy who's been consistent for that team. I believe he caught all of his targets. I don't remember him dropping any big passes, but Washington has been very good for them. So yeah, that's probably about the only bright spot on that wide receiver core after that last game. And then finally, Baltimore versus Cleveland. This is going to be a big game. Cleveland got destroyed. First, I believe it was week 1 when they played last time. They got utterly destroyed. Chubb shut down. This Buffalo defense, I still feel like is good, but I'm going to go with a little bit of a hot hand for some people. I don't think it's a hot hand anymore. Give me Cleveland in this matchup. I feel like they've still got the better team offensively. Their defense has been playing great, especially Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett. Nobody is stopping that man. This Cleveland defense really has their mind set in the right place. And even though Tennessee did look good in that second half, they made some good adjustments, and that kind of was impressive. Cleveland still just utterly dominated that game. So I like Cleveland this week over Baltimore.
Yeah, like you said earlier, it took people a little while to realize who Cleveland really was, but I don't think there's any questions anymore. I mean, they're a football team this year, and I'll take them over the Ravens any day of the week.
Yeah, but guys, that wraps it up for today's episode. Like we said, we don't know anything about the Baltimore Cowboys game, so some of the stuff that we have said here, especially about Baltimore, we could be proven wrong. Baltimore could have looked like an offensive powerhouse against us because we're recording this on Tuesday. Okay, they could look like an offensive powerhouse against us tonight, but we'll see how that plays out. But we'll see you guys here tomorrow for fantasy. Make sure you like the video as always. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell, and yeah, see y'all tomorrow. Peace.